Hello, everyone, and welcome to our storytelling channel. Grab a warm drink, get comfortable, and prepare to drift away into a tale of wonder and quiet magic. If you enjoy our stories, please consider subscribing and let us know in the comments where you're re-listening from. We love hearing from you. Now, settle in as we begin The Stray Who Learned the Stars. Jasper knew the language of the alley. It was a harsh tongue, spoken in the rustle of discarded newspaper, the distant clang of a garbage truck, and the low growl of a rival tomcat. He understood the sharp bite of hunger, the chilling caress of the wind through broken fences, and the ever-present threat of a heavy boot or a snarling dog. He was a small cat, a ginger tabby whose fur was perpetually matted with grime, his ribs a constant testament to his meager existence. His world was a narrow strip of concrete between crumbling brick walls, punctuated by overflowing bins and the occasional fleeting shadow of a rat. Hope was a luxury he couldn't afford, and trust was a concept as alien as flying. Survival was his only creed, and he pursued it with a quiet, desperate tenacity. His days were a monotonous cycle of scavenging and hiding. He knew the best spins, the ones that offered a slim chance of a half-eaten sandwich or a discarded chicken bone. He knew the dark corners where he could curl up, unseen, and snatch a few hours of uneasy sleep. He was a master of invisibility, a ghost in the urban landscape, his movements fluid and silent, honed by countless escapes. Yet, despite the constant struggle, there was a flicker of something more in his emerald eyes, an almost unnerving intelligence, a deep-seated curiosity that even the alley's brutality couldn't quite extinguish. One evening, as the city lights began to prickle the deepening twilight, Jasper found himself on a slightly elevated ledge, a rare vantage point that offered a glimpse beyond his usual confines. Below him, the alley snaked into a wider street, and across it, nestled amidst a row of taller, older buildings, was one that stood out. It was a house with a rounded, glass-domed roof, an architectural anomaly in the otherwise mundane urban sprawl. Sometimes at night, a soft, warm light would glow from within that dome, casting an inviting, almost magical aura. He had observed the house before, always from a distance, always with a mixture of suspicion and a nascent, unacknowledged fascination. He had seen an old woman with a shock of white hair and large, round spectacles tending to a small, wild garden in front. She moved slowly, deliberately, her hands often stained with earth, but her eyes, even from afar, seemed bright and full of a gentle energy. She was different from the hurried, indifferent humans who usually populated his world. She didn't shout, didn't curse, didn't chase. Tonight, however, was different. The sky was clearer than usual, a deep indigo canvas slowly unfurling above the city's hazy glow. As the first stars began to pierce through the urban light pollution, Jasper saw the old woman, whom he'd heard neighbors sometimes call Alara, emerge onto a small balcony attached to the domed house. She wasn't carrying gardening tools. Instead, she had a long, slender object that gleamed faintly in the fading light. She pointed it towards the sky, her head tilted back, her posture one of profound concentration. Jasper watched, mesmerized, as she remained there for a long time, utterly still, utterly absorbed. The world around them, the world of hungry bellies and harsh concrete, seemed to fade for a moment, replaced by the silent, majestic theater of the cosmos. It was the first time Jasper truly looked up, not just for danger, but for something else entirely, something vast and unknowable. The image of Alara, the old woman with the strange, gleaming instrument pointed at the sky, haunted Jasper's thoughts for days. It was a peculiar kind of haunting, not of fear, but of an insistent, almost magnetic pull. Hunger, however, was a more immediate and tangible force. A particular lean week had left him weaker than usual, and the alley's usual offerings were sparse. One frigid evening, a particularly strong gust of wind carried the faint, tantalizing scent of something warm and savory, Stew, perhaps, or roasted meat from the direction of Alara's house. It was an unprecedented boldness, a leap of faith for a creature whose very existence was predicated on caution. But the scent, combined with the lingering memory of the old woman's calm demeanor, proved irresistible. Jasper crept out of the alley, moving with a heightened sense of awareness, his ginger fur bristling slightly against the cold. He darted across the street, a small, furtive shadow, and found himself at the edge of Alara's small, overgrown garden. The scent was stronger here, emanating from a slightly ajar window. He hesitated, poised for flight, but the warmth emanating from the house was a balm against the biting air. He stretched a silent, sinuous movement and peered through the crack in the window. Inside, the room was a wonderland of books, charts, and strange, gleaming metal instruments. A fire crackled in a hearth, casting dancing shadows. And there, by a large circular table, sat Alara, engrossed in a thick tome, a half-eaten bowl of something delicious steaming beside her. As if sensing his presence, or perhaps simply taking a break, she looked up directly at the window. Jasper froze, ready to bolt. But Alara didn't shout, didn't flail. She simply smiled, a soft crinkling of her eyes. "Well, hello there, little one," she murmured, her voice a gentle whisper. "Are you lost, or merely curious?" Slowly, deliberately, she rose and approached the window, opening it just a fraction wider. She knelt, her movements slow, and extended a hand, palm open, offering a small piece of cooked meat. "Come, don't be shy." "It's cold out there." It was an offer Jasper had never known. Unconditional, without threat. His instincts screamed caution, but his hunger, and that strange, persistent curiosity, urged him forward. He took a tentative step, then another, until he was close enough to snatch the morsel. He devoured it in an instant, the warmth and flavor a shock to his deprived system. Alara offered another and another. Soon he was inside, tentatively exploring the warmth of the hearth, the soft rug, the overwhelming scent of old paper, and something else, something clean and vast, like the night air. Alara spoke to him in a low, soothing voice, telling him about the stars, about the great dance of the cosmos. She didn't expect him to understand, not truly, but she spoke as if he were a trusted confidant. "You see, little one," she'd say, gesturing towards the domed roof, "up there beyond the city's light are worlds upon worlds, stories waiting to be read. Each star a sun, each galaxy a universe in itself." Jasper, curled by the fire, would listen, his ears twitching, his intelligent eyes fixed on her. He didn't grasp the words, not logically, but he understood the reverence in her tone, the boundless wonder in her gaze. He understood that this house, this woman, and whatever lay beyond that domed roof was a gateway to something profound, something that spoke to the deepest, most untouched part of his stray soul. He was no longer just a cat. He was a guest in an observatory, and the stars were waiting. Life with Alara was a revelation. Jasper quickly shed the gauntness of the alley, his fur growing sleek and soft, his eyes losing their haunted edge. He ate regular meals, slept on soft cushions, and knew the comforting routine of Alara's days. But it was her nights that truly captivated him. As dusk painted the sky in hues of orange and purple, Alara would transform. Her movements, usually slow and deliberate, gained a quiet urgency. She would ascend to the domed room, her observatory, and Jasper, no longer content to remain below, would follow. The observatory itself was a universe of its own. Giant brass-plated telescopes gleamed under the soft glow of a desk lamp, their lenses reflecting the faint light like watchful eyes. Maps of the constellations, ancient and new, adorned the walls, depicting mythical beasts and heroes etched among the stars. Books filled every available surface, their pages whispering tales of distant nebulae and swirling galaxies. It was a place of profound quiet, broken only by the gentle hum of the telescope's motor as Alara adjusted its gaze, or the soft rustle of her turning pages. Alara, a retired astrophysicist, found in Jasper an unexpected silent student. She'd sit by the telescope, her eye pressed to the eyepiece, and talk aloud, as if sharing her discoveries with a peer. "Look, Jasper," she'd murmur, her voice filled with a childlike wonder. "That's Jupiter, a gas giant, so vast it could swallow 1,000 Earths. And those tiny dots beside it? Its moons, caught in its powerful embrace." Jasper, perched on a stool beside her, would listen intently, his head cocked, his tail occasionally twitching in response to the rhythm of her words. He didn't comprehend the scientific terms, the physics of celestial mechanics, or the complex mathematics that underlay Alara's understanding. But he absorbed the essence, the sheer, breathtaking scale of it all. He felt the pull of the cosmos, a profound sense of interconnectedness that resonated deep within his feline instincts. He began to associate certain words with certain patterns. Alara would point out on her charts, Orion with the hunter's belt, Ursa Major with the dipper. He learned to differentiate the steady, unwavering light of a planet from the twinkling dance of a distant star. His nights became a mirror of Alara's. While she gazed through the powerful lens, he would often sit on the wide windowsill, his own eyes fixed on the boundless expanse above. He'd tilt his head, his whiskers twitching, as if trying to grasp the immense tapestry of light and shadow. The stars were no longer just random pinpricks. They were signposts, whispers of ancient light, each one a story waiting to be told. The harsh, indifferent sky of the alley had transformed into a luminous veil, a source of endless fascination and quiet contemplation. Jasper was no longer just observing. He was learning, not with his mind, but with his very soul, a stray cat touched by the silent, profound lessons of the universe. Months turned into a year, and the bond between Alara and Jasper deepened into a silent, profound understanding. He was more than a pet. He was her confidant, her fellow traveler on a cosmic journey. He would often curl up on her lap as she sketched constellations or made notes, his purr a soft rumble that seemed to harmonize with the distant hum of the universe. Alara would stroke his soft fur, murmuring, "You understand, don't you, little stargazer? You feel it too, this grand symphony." And Jasper, with a slow blink of his emerald eyes, would confirm her unspoken question. His connection to the stars grew more profound. He no longer merely looked. He seemed to perceive. He could sense the subtle shifts in the night sky, the rising of familiar constellations, the appearance of new celestial visitors. He would often nudge Alara's hand, guiding her gaze towards a particular section of the heavens, or sit by the telescope, letting out a soft meow, as if urging her to explore a specific point. Alara, with her scientific mind, initially dismissed these as mere coincidences, but as they happened with uncanny accuracy, she began to wonder. Was it possible that Jasper, unburdened by scientific dogma, was perceiving something on intuitive, almost primal level that she, with all her instruments and equations, sometimes missed? One particularly frustrating evening, Alara was struggling with a complex calculation, her brow furrowed in concentration. She had been working for hours, trying to reconcile a discrepancy in her observations of a newly discovered exoplanet. The numbers weren't adding up, and a rare wave of self-doubt washed over her. She sighed, pushing away her papers, her shoulders slumped. Jasper, who had been observing her from his perch on the windowsill, quietly jumped down. He approached her, rubbing his head against her arm, then hopped onto the table, settling himself amidst her scattered notes. He didn't just sit there. He looked at her, his intelligent eyes holding a depth that transcended mere animal affection. Then, with a delicate paw, he gently pushed aside a stray piece of paper, revealing a small, forgotten diagram Alara had drawn earlier. It was a simple sketch outlining the orbital path of a moon around the exoplanet. As Alara looked at it, a sudden flash of insight struck her. The diagram, though simple, highlighted a symmetry she had overlooked in her complex equations, a fundamental principle of orbital mechanics that had slipped her mind in her frustration. A gasp escaped her lips. "Jasper, you clever, clever boy," she exclaimed, her voice filled with renewed excitement. She quickly returned to her calculations, her mind clear, and within minutes, the discrepancy was resolved. It wasn't that Jasper had understood the astrophysics, but his intuitive perception, his gentle nudge, had broken her mental block. He had, in his own way, guided her back to the stars. From that day on, Alara treated Jasper not just as a companion, but as a silent, profound partner in her cosmic explorations. He was the grounding force, the intuitive counterpoint to her rigorous logic. Their bond became a unique bridge between scientific inquiry and pure, unadulterated wonder, a testament to the idea that understanding could come in many forms, even from the quiet gaze of a stray who had learned to read the stars with his soul. Time, like the celestial bodies, continued its relentless, silent journey. Alara, though still sharp of mind and spirit, found her physical strength waning. Her trips up to the observatory became less frequent, her gaze through the telescope shorter. Jasper, ever attuned to her, felt the subtle shift in her energy. He would still bring her comfort, curling up beside her as she rested, purring his steady, reassuring rhythm. But his nightly vigil continued, unwavering. He would still ascend to the observatory, often alone now, and sit by the window, his eyes fixed on the velvet canvas above, a silent guardian of Alara's legacy and his own profound connection. His transformation from a scrawny alley cat to a sleek, wise creature had not gone unnoticed by the other inhabitants of the neighborhood. The local strays, those who still frequented the alleyways and kept a wary distance from humans, would occasionally glimpse Jasper, a figure of quiet dignity, often perched on Alara's roof, gazing upwards. They saw the change in him, the serene wisdom in his eyes, a stark contrast to the desperate hunger they still carried. He had an aura about him, a stillness that drew curiosity. One evening, a young timid tabby named Whiskers, driven by hunger and a cautious curiosity, ventured closer to Alara's property. He had heard whispers among the other strays about the star cat, the one who lived in the strange house and seemed to know things beyond their comprehension. Whiskers found Jasper on the roof, silhouetted against a brilliant moon. Jasper didn't flee, didn't hiss. He simply turned his head, his luminous green eyes meeting Whiskers' fearful gaze. There was no judgment, only an invitation. Slowly, tentatively, Whiskers approached. Jasper, in a rare, deliberate gesture, nudged his head towards the sky. Whiskers, accustomed to scanning the ground for threats and scraps, hesitated, then slowly, almost reluctantly, lifted his gaze. The sight that met him was overwhelming. A sky ablaze with stars, a shimmering river of light, far grander, and more beautiful than he had ever imagined from the murky confines of the alley. He had never truly looked up before, not like this. He felt a primal awe, a profound sense of insignificance and wonder all at once. Word spread among the stray community. Others, drawn by Whiskers' tail and their own burgeoning curiosity, began to cautiously approach. A mangy tomcat, a flighty pigeon, even a bold squirrel, one by one, they would appear, drawn by Jasper's silent invitation. He wouldn't speak, of course, but he would lead them to rooftops, to garden walls, to any vantage point that offered an unobstructed view of the night sky. He would sit, serene and patient, and simply gaze upwards, his unspoken lesson radiating outwards. He showed them that there was more than just the hard ground beneath their paws, more than the endless search for food and shelter. There was a boundless, beautiful universe above, a source of quiet wonder that could transcend their daily struggles. Jasper became a silent mentor, a gentle guide. He wasn't teaching them astrophysics, but he was teaching them to look up, to find solace. and wonder in the infinite expanse, to connect with something larger than themselves. He was sharing Alara's gift, the celestial secret, transforming fear and hunger into moments of shared, silent awe under the luminous veil of the stars. The inevitable arrived with the quiet dignity of a falling star. One peaceful dawn, Alara passed away in her sleep, a faint smile gracing her lips, a half-finished star chart on her bedside table. Jasper was there, curled on her chest, his purr a gentle vibrato until her breathing ceased. He remained there for a long time, a sentinel of profound grief and unwavering love. When the kind neighbors finally came, they found him nestled beside her, his eyes, though filled with sorrow, still holding that deep cosmic wisdom. Alara had no close relatives, and her will, discovered among her astronomy notes, simply stated that her home, her observatory, and all its contents should be left to the gentle soul who understood the stars as I did. The neighbors, knowing Alara's eccentricities and her deep affection for Jasper, understood. The house became a quiet, unofficial sanctuary for Jasper. He continued his life within its walls, a guardian of the observatory, a living testament to Alara's spirit and the boundless wonder she had instilled in him. His nightly ritual never wavered. He would still ascend to the domed room, his steps now carrying the weight of years and experience, and settle by the main telescope or on the wide windowsill. The other strays continued to visit, drawn by his silent presence. They would gather in the garden, on the low roof, or even just outside the windows, watching as Jasper gazed upwards. He was a beacon for them, a living legend, the star cat, who had found something more than mere survival in the harsh city. He would often be seen leading small processions of his feline and feathered companions to high vantage points around the neighborhood, a derelict chimney, a sturdy oak tree, the highest point of a forgotten wall. There, under the vast, silent expanse of the night sky, they would sit together, a motley parliament of urban creatures, all looking up. Jasper wouldn't speak, but his presence, his quiet contemplation conveyed everything. He taught them not through words, but through example that there was beauty even in the bleakest existence. Wonder in the most familiar night and a profound connection to something immense and eternal if only they dared to look up. Years passed. Jasper's ginger fur became frosted with white around his muzzle, his movements slower, but his emerald eyes never lost their luminous intensity. He lived a long, fulfilling life, not just for himself, but as a keeper of Alara's legacy, a silent professor of the cosmos to those who needed it most. He was no longer just a stray. He was a bridge between the mundane and the magnificent, a testament to the transformative power of curiosity and kindness. He was the stray who had learned the stars, and in doing so, had taught countless others to find their own piece of the infinite. And on the clearest nights, if you looked closely at the highest rooftop, you might still see a wise, old ginger tabby, silhouetted against the Milky Way, his gaze fixed on the endless dance of the universe, his silent prayer melody for the stars themselves.